this time, we're going to go ahead on our agenda. We're going to have Mr. Kelvin Williams. He will come to you and talk to you a little bit about excuse me, developing positive attitudes, in which we all do have different attitudes, and how we know sometimes we don't realize we have attitudes, and it sometimes does not always come out in your words, but just your expression sometimes can tell how your attitude is. And at this time, Mr. Williams.
So y'all know we're going to be doing some social working this morning. We're going to talk about the age-old question. Why do you act that way? Why do you have that attitude, and so on and so forth? And this morning I'm going to share a couple of things with you guys about the process of developing a positive attitude. Because most times we think folks just wake up one morning and decide to be a certain way or think a certain way. But I'm going to show you how all our everyday interactions contribute to the attitudes that we have. But I want to start off by sharing some information to sort of put things in perspective that I learned this week that was shared to me. We talk about Lee County, we talk about this thing called poverty. Now when I say poverty, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Lack of money.
Lack of money. Anybody else?
Poor.
Poor. Well, my eyes was open, so since my eyes open a little bit, I'm going to try to open your eyes a little bit about how it was explained to me. There's several types of poverty I want to share with you guys, and how all these things contribute back to attitude. The first one is spiritual poverty. And when we talk about spiritual poverty, that's the concept, there's a lack of connection between the person and the higher power. Now, whatever higher power it is, that's on the individual, but just a lack of connection with the person and the higher power. And you know, normally they say if you don't have a higher power of guidance, then you really don't have any direction. So when you start looking at an individual, think about that spiritual poverty. The second poverty is mental poverty. And that's a breakdown or like in the thought process. How do you think? And the breakdowns in your thought process when we talk about mental poverty. And I'm going to tie mental poverty back to attitude, because that's where we're going this morning. The next one is body poverty. And that's just lack of access to good health or even good health resources. And Dr. Young can give you guys a little bit more here in Lee County. Dr. Young, will you share a little bit about the resource that we have that's available in every school, that if you have a child there with the agency, that they have a bus on the campuses on certain days? And I'll let Dr. Young share a little bit about that right quick for us.
We have Care South, and forms were sent home. Consent form, they did not take the place of your primary caretaker, but they come to every school, and if the child is feeling ill, they have a family practitioner that will see that child. If the child needs a prescription, they will call you as a parent and see which pharmacist you want the prescription sent to. Then, if you don't want the prescription sent to the pharmacist, they will tape it in the child's book bag and send it home. If you don't have insurance, they will do a sliding scale fee. They will hook you up with somebody that can provide you with insurance. They will make home visits if they see there's a need. But as a parent, if stuff is coming home from the school system and you don't understand it, because see, it didn't have Lee County School District on it, it had Cal South, you need to call the Student Service Department, and you will be calling me to find out what is going on. Because a lot of parents didn't sign up for this, and it's a good service, but they go from school to school in a mobile unit, and they have certain days. And then we have resources like Mr. Williams and myself. We are social workers, and we wear a lot of other hats also. But if your child has a problem, the principals will do a social work referral. We'll go out and see the child and see whether we can do what we can do to help or hook the family up with some resources.
Thank you, Dr. Young.
You're welcome. Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Young and Mr. Williams, y'all see y'all service all the schools in Lee County.
I said, but we have children at Bishopville Head Start, Waterbury Community Actions, and we serve children that go to all the public schools in Lee County. Can you come out and maybe provide a workshop to our parents? We have our parents meeting where they know that these services are available to them. We have 3- and 4-year-old children before they get to the public school. So is those services also available to us, and in the county, where you can come to our center up on 15 and say, well, you got a mobile unit out here. If you got a sick child, then we can serve your child. Is that not available until our children get to the public school?
Well, I would have to contact Care South and see whether they would service the Waterbury Head Start. I know they're servicing the schools right now, but that service, I would have to contact Care South and ask the community outreach person, do they do that? But now workshops, Mr. Williams,
What I would recommend, if you get with Ms. Frederick, because she's our parent facilitator, and that falls in parenting community support, and because she works closely with Dr. Young and I, just get with her with the details, and I'm sure we can work something out just based on time and things of that nature. Any other questions? All right, well, we talked about the spiritual, and the spiritual is what? A likely connection to what? A higher power. Now, we're going to have to put that on y'all plate to do that, because, there's a law out there that says you have to separate that from school. So that's going to be on you guys. And we touched on mental poverty, and mental poverty deals with what? Thinking, the thought process, and we'll get into more of that a little bit later. We're just finishing up with the body poverty, and Dr. Young gave you guys a great resource on that. So we're going to continue looking at that and find those resources. And Dr. Young didn't tell you guys, but she monitored the nurse. So we have the nurse services in all our schools, available to all our schools, and additional resource that she just shared with you. Now, the next one I have is economic poverty. And I'm going to be up front with you guys. I don't have any immediate answers to your financial needs. But as it relates to your children, I will tell you, education is the key. And that's the business that we're truly into every day, by way of education. So support us in our efforts to educate your kids, and we can start to reduce some of the economic poverty. But I can't pass economic poverty, and that just deals with access to money. Okay? And how do we define money? How do we define money? Ms. James, they spend it.
Working to get it.
Working to get it. When we start to talk about attitude, I'm going to get into perceptions. But when you think about money, we often think about, normally at this point, this kid, I'll reach in my pocket and pull out some money, but I don't have any. If anybody wants me to hold theirs, I'll definitely hold it. But normally when we talk about money, we talk about dollar bills and change and so on and so forth. But at some point, you're going to have to expand your thought process to include things like your credit. And credit is basically paying your bills on time. The more you pay your stuff on time, the better your credit will be. And paying your bills on time is the same thing as your word being your bond. In other words, when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. So that's a skill that don't have anything to do with money, most people think. But when you do what you say you're going to do, when you say you're going to do it, when you expand your credit, and your credit is your money. Because most people that have stuff don't use this is stuff here. They put that up. They use their credit to buy the things that they want. And they use this a little bit at a time. But that's a whole nother lesson. But when we talk about economic poverty, we're talking about money, resources, connections. The next poverty that I want to talk about is societal poverty. What do you think I mean by societal poverty?
The environment, things around you.
Things around you, your environment. Anybody want to take that a little bit further?
Can you repeat your question, please?
When I say societal poverty, what am I talking about? She said your environment. So I asked, can we take that a little bit further?
Cultural.
Did I hear cultural? Society poverty deals with connections. Give you guys a prime example. You probably experienced this, because I know we all did it. You know, when we little, this is size here, our parents are the greatest, smartest, strongest people in the world. Are they not?
Yes.
Then when we got a little bit bigger, around middle school, when your parents start telling you, you start to smell yourself. Anybody ever heard that?
Yes.
The connection starts to break away. When you hit teenage, high school, some of them, not all of them, but most of them start to lose their mind, and there's no connection. And they get around 24, 25, 26 years old, and that's when they say, you know, the parts of the mind that's supposed to kick in, the reckless behavior supposed to minimize. Then you start going back to home, to your parents for answers and guidance, and you start hearing yourself saying and do some things your parents did. Right? That's that connection piece, guys. In other words, and I think I can be frank in saying this, the young folks, the young generation, and the old generations aren't tied together. Y'all realize that? There's a breakdown in their expectation and their performance. That's a poverty issue. Okay? That's society poverty. So we're going to have to fix that. And one of the things the school is doing to help in that battle is having these here trainings, where we bring in law enforcement and other agencies to talk about different components. But we have to start putting all the pieces together. If not, we're just out there trying to put out fires. Okay? But we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Then someone mentioned culture, but then we have cultural poverty. Cultural poverty as well. This is Black History Month. Of course, Black History Month is designed to highlight the efforts and successes of African American. But that's just one culture aspect. Correct? We got the 60s cultures, the 70s cultures, the 50s cultures, the 80s cultures, the 90s culture was introduced hip-hop, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things going on. And we have to find a way to respect the different cultures and identify it when we see it. And I'm glad we have the sheriff here, because he's going to talk a little bit today, I think, about the gang culture. And he's going to probably explain to you guys that it'll just don't wake up one day and say, well, you know what, I'm going to join me a gang. Okay? All that's a process. And what I mean by process, that takes me to systems cultures. And I think in Lee County, that's one of the biggest, well, in a lot of counties, one of the biggest things is systems poverty. And that's just a breakdown in between on the systems. And the reason it's a breakdown because we don't understand the role. I had the opportunity to meet the sheriff, and we had some conversations with the system that he's in. If I violate the law, don't matter how you feel about me personally, it's his job to carry it out. And I need to understand that that's what that system does. This is the educational system. Our ultimate goal in everything that we do is to educate. Dr. Young didn't tell you guys, but she's also the hearing officer. So as much as her job as a social worker is to save the kids by all means necessary, when the evidence is presented to her and she found that a child has violated school policy and that violation may serve as a major disruption to their school, there has to be a sanction associated with it. So it don't matter what her relationship is with you or with that parent or with that child, the system that she's responsible for, she still has to carry out all the roles. And there's different systems here, you know, political system, academic system, law enforcement systems, food systems, all types of systems. We have to understand the role of those different systems, and we have to learn to govern ourselves accordingly. Okay? Now that's my spiel on the several types of poverty. And don't worry if you didn't get everything jotted down, because we have Mr. Patterson, and he's a part of our technology system. So he's recording all of this, and he'll have this made available on the district website. Correct, Mr. Patterson?
Yeah.
It'll be available on the district website. if you want it later. But the poverty that I'm gonna focus on is the mental poverty. Because mental poverty deals with what?
Breakdown thought process.
Breakdown in the thought processes. Now, I told you, the way we think is a process or a system within itself. And the number one thing that contributes to your thought process, and most people refer to that as your attitude. Anybody ever ask a kid, why you got such a nasty attitude? You basically ask them, why are you thinking like that? Because anything you think, you tend to say it. If you say it long enough, you tend to do it. If you do it long enough, it becomes a habit. Your habit then becomes your personality, and your personality dictates your destiny. Okay? So as you see, everything starts off with the thought. But the first thing that sparks your thought process is your life experiences. And I'll show it to you. You can answer this in your mind to yourself. When you went to school, every day you got off the bus, you gave all your friends a high five, you bought the teacher an apple, you did a good job, she pat you on the head, you got good grades, good marks on your report card. Your attitude about school is more likely to be what? Good, correct? When you become an adult, what is your attitude and your expectation about school going to be? Positive, right? You expect them to get it. Correct? Now let's flip the script. You went to school, kids teased you from the time you got on the bus. They threw rocks at you as you was coming to the bus stop. Got off the bus, you got into a little struggle with another kid, ended up in the principal's office, and not our principals here in Lee County, because we don't do this, but the principal in the other counties may say to your child, every time I turn around, you always get into something. What's wrong with you? 2 days at home. You get home, you get a spanking, go back to school 2 or 3 weeks later, repeat the whole process. What is your attitude about school likely to be?
You don't want to go.
It's going to be negative. You're not going to want to go.
So that they can be sent home.
So when you become an adult and you talk about school because you made it, you know, you got a job, and as y'all know, the systems have changed. When I was a teenager, it was always a job. It was in the tobacco field. It was a job. And then everybody wanted to get the high school diploma because of the big factory that came to your town. Right? So just because you didn't make A's, all A's, or you didn't go to college, you were still able to have a decent living because the factories paid pretty decent. Right? So your value of education may not have been as grand. Not saying you wouldn't have it, but if you had a hard time in school, then education would be as important. You just need to do what you need to do to get out so you can find you a good job. That's the mentality, right? So when you start talking about the birthplace of your attitude, you start with your life experience. Now, I tell teachers and I tell parents as well, every time you interact with a child, you're writing on their life experience history. Every interaction, whether it's good or bad. So in essence, you have the ability to control the attitude simply based on your interactions. If you make your interactions positive, you contribute to their attitude being positive. If you make your interactions negative, you contribute to their attitudes being negative. Most of the behavior problems that we have in school, and make no misunderstandings about it, when a kid comes to school with an attitude, most of the time, it don't have anything to do with what's going on with the school. It's whatever happened to get their day started. It's just like us, when we roll over out of bed in the morning, you get out of bed and you stump your toe, drop on it. I don't care what, how great the day is, how good the sunshine is, you probably gonna have a bad day because the way your day started. Life experience, attitude. So when we look at a person's attitude, and when we look at the thought process, the birthplace starts with life experience. Even as babies, trust versus mistrust. They learn that as babies. Okay? Safety versus non-safety. They experiences. So our life experiences is the birthplace of our attitudes, so make sure all of your interactions are as positive as can be. Now this next one, this is homegrown. This is homegrown. The second area is family beliefs. Whatever your family beliefs are, you're going to bestow those on your kids. Now that's not 100% because nothing's 100%. Because when you look at things like games, for example, and I'm just using that because I know the sheriff coming up next. When you look at the makeup of a game, and you look at the makeup of what a family is supposed to be, you'll find that they're built on the same components. When you hear kids say, "I don't snitch," that's a belief for whoever they call their family. Because you got families of origin, which is what they were born up into. And then you got the families that they associate themselves with. That's where they find the safety and all those other things that they're supposed to find here at the home. So once again, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the issues that we want to address, we can start right there in the house. That's why they say homegrown. That's why when a kid comes in, oftentimes, we tend to make the mistake of saying, if you look at that child's family, then you can tell such and such. When I got a little kid as big, they call me in on first, second grade, that kid cussing and fussing, I'm willing to bet you, and I ain't no betting man, if I can put me one of them spy cams in the house for about a week, I can give you the source of the problem. Because the only thing happens is, whatever family beliefs, systems, behaviors, and all that good stuff that they come up in, when they get to school, especially the young ones, they haven't mastered this thing we call code shifting, when you can move from one behavior to the next based on the setting that you're in. They bring the same thing they do at home to the school. Now, because the families are so great with listening and following the instructions and getting those supports and modifying what they do, then we tend to save more kids than we lose. But when we don't get that support from the family, it makes our job that much harder. And they find themselves in the Dr. Young, not the social worker, but here in office situation. Make sense? So those family beliefs, whatever the beliefs are in your family, and I do want to dispel one belief, though, that I heard, that I hear often. And they say, this is Lee County.
Yep.
What I want y'all to know, I drive from Lake City every day, and a lot of people here drive from different places to be here. Once we get here, guys, we all are Lee County. So we all contribute to it. So, in order to help fix that, we have to fix ourselves first. And not your words, but let your actions branch out. Okay? Because once we're in the game, we all in the game. We can't say them, him, her. It's us. Us is or we. I think the right one is we, right? Us is the Lake City word. So it's not Lee County anymore. It's us is or we. So when we fix ourselves, fix our mentality and how we think about it and what we expect, because if you expect bad, you will get bad. If you expect the best, you'll get and you'll see the best. You'll see the progress. And that's what we have to do as Lee County, us. Okay? Now, this leads me to the next thing, and I don't have a board to write on. But have everybody ever seen a little exercise where they draw the glass of water, and it's a half a glass of water, and they ask you the question, is the glass halfway full or halfway empty? What do we say? Those that say halfway full, raise your hand. Those that say halfway empty, raise your hand. Those that don't know what to say, raise your hand. Well, the psychology behind it is if you say the glass is halfway full, then you tend to be more of a positive thinker. You see the brighter side. those that say the glass is halfway empty say you tend to focus on the negative aspects. I want everybody to fill their glass up halfway. Because the sheriff will share with you guys some of the things that we're dealing with. And if your glass is already halfway empty, remember I said earlier that whatever you see or expect to see is what you will see. So if you expect to see failure, I don't care how great things are going, all you're going to see is the failure. Now, the Andrews talk about all the rumors on our meetings that's going around in the district about what's happening with this person and that person. But yet, no one is talking about the great spelling bee that we had at the high school last week. And the great thing our young people are doing, I think the elementary kids ran out of elementary words, so they had to go into the middle school words, and they were spelling them. So imagine if all of our stuff was focusing on that, how much further advanced we would be. But I say all that to say, the third thing that shapes your attitude is your perception. Whether you see the glass halfway full or halfway empty. And the reality with a perception can be true or false. Anybody grew up here in Bishopville? Anybody grew up in Bishopville, left Bishopville and came back? Based on your life experiences somewhere else, did your perception change about what can be done?
All the time.
No,
Your life experience didn't change? Your expectation of what could happen?
No. With me, I grew up in Bishopville.
Yes, ma'am.
I graduated from Mount Pleasant High School.
Yes, ma'am.
I went to Orangeburg, and then I moved to USC, to Columbia,
Yes,
and worked at USC for like 8-9 years.
Yes, ma'am.
But I came back to Bishopville in 1991, 92, because my mother was sick. And I have been here working at Bishopville Head Start ever since 1993. My perception of what you just said about halfway full and halfway empty, I graduated valedictorian. So my cup was always full because of the way my mother and my father brought me up. But it was also halfway empty because I didn't think I could achieve everything I did unless I had the backing of my parents. And that's why I try to instill in my parents, and this is one of my parents right here, to stay behind your children all through school. And as long as Miss Davis is there with me, I know that her child is going to do well. And with me, with all my children in my classroom, they can come in sometimes and they have an attitude or something like that. The cup one day might be halfway full, the cup might be halfway empty. But I can talk to them about what's going on and stuff like that. I can pull their cup up. I have a book in my classroom. Did you fill your bucket list today? If they can fill their bucket list and do what they need to do, they can achieve what they need to achieve. And the next day, I can move them on up to where they need to be. And then that way I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to do with these children. I have 3 and 4 and 5, some of them already turned 5 years old. I want to make sure my children are ready to go to the public school, a 5K. Right now, my children know all the alphabets, they know sight words, they write in sentences, and everything like that. So my bucket is full because I know I'm doing with these children what they need to do. They know cultural awareness, they know the difference between themselves and other children. My parent is Caucasian. The majority of the children in my classroom is black, excuse me. But these children know that they are all the same. You treat each other the same. And as long as you can treat these children the same way in these classrooms, and you know that you are no different, you're no better than the next child, and we all working together, we can achieve what we need to achieve as 3 and 4 year olds. And I check on my children at Bishopville Primary, Lowerly, and Wesley every year to make sure they are still on the right track.
We definitely appreciate that support. And that leads me to this last thing, when we talk about our attitude. Now, this what I do feel some type of way about. It's not my research, but this is the research that's out there. But we all go through this. Your previous history dictates your attitude. But I'm going to take it a little bit further, because this is out of the research. This is Kelvin now. How you use your previous history will dictate or influence your attitude. And of course, you have law enforcement. Law enforcement will tell you, anytime they pull you over, they bring you in, the first thing they look at your previous history, and your previous history is identified by your criminal record, if you have one. You go to buy something, they're going to look at your previous history, and your previous history is your credit report. When you leave high school, they're going to look at your previous history, and your previous history is your high school transcript. When you go apply for a job, they're going to look at your previous history, and your previous history is your work experience and your references. Okay? So your previous history does have an influence on your attitude. And I'm going to take that back to that cup being halfway full. Once you show a person that they can achieve something, once you celebrate the small achievements, because once you do something, it becomes history. You now building that person's attitude about their ability to succeed. If Johnny cuts up every day, all day long, from the time he get to school to the time he leave, and Johnny come to school and he have 5 good minutes, you have an option. When Johnny acts up again, you can say, Johnny, and I know they don't do that in Lee County, every time I turn around, you're getting in something. You don't never behave. You're always in something. Or option 2, hey Johnny, yesterday you had 5 good minutes, man, which tell me that I know you can do better. Everybody makes mistakes and it's okay, but I want you to work a little bit harder the next time. Can I get that commitment from you, Johnny? What did you highlight? The positive. You highlighted what you expected. You gave Johnny something to work on. You automatically made Johnny think back to those last 5 minutes. And when you send the Dr. Young or myself to work with him, okay, Johnny, what were you doing those 5 minutes you behaved yourself? Well, I was sitting down and I didn't get out of my seat. Was that hard for you? Is that something you can do, continue to do, Johnny? Well, let's try that, Johnny. When you think about such and such, just raise your hand or just stay seated or squeeze the stress ball. Now you have something to build on. And it goes all the way up the ladder that it could be used. But if you only highlighting the negative stuff, and if Johnny doing all this because he wants attention, because he's not getting attention at home, or somewhere in that process, he didn't get love or support. And Lord forbid there's another sibling that's a shining star in the house. Why can't you be like such and such? I know y'all don't do that, but I know some parents I used to work with some other places that did. You're not allowing that person to have their own identity. But previous history is a powerful thing when it comes to modifying the thought process. And I'm an old country farm boy, and I truly believe whatever you plant will grow. So be careful with your words. Because one of the biggest lies we used to tell was sticks and stones will break our bones. That's the biggest lie we ever tell. Some of your most hurtful feelings are based on what somebody that at some point said they love you, care about you, said to you. Sometimes we rather the sticks and stones than the words. So any questions about attitude? How do we shape these attitudes? How do we remove ourselves from this mental poverty stage? We be mindful of how we write on people's life experiences. Right? We watch our family beliefs. Watch your perceptions, because they can be true or false. And highlight the positives in your life history. Now, I will say money is important. So that, you know, that economic poverty thing, that's an important thing. But if you was like me, 9 kids, a mom and a daddy, in a 5-bedroom project house, I ain't never know I was poor. Somebody told me I was poor. Because you had all the other poverty issues fulfilled. You had love, you had clothes. You can have 2 outfits and you can wash every outfit every night and you're still good to go. You may not have steak, may not eat McDonald's, may eat beans and rice every day, and you still be good to go. So let's, as we start to look at this poverty thing, as we start to move forward as Lee County, because once you get in the game, you're in the game, let's find the positive, let's expect the best, let's respect the different systems and the people rolling those different systems. Let's hold ourselves accountable first, before we start branching out and calling blame on somebody else. Because I explained to the kids, and I don't care what situation you put in front of me besides death, there ain't no situation out there that a child has been in that you can't find somebody that was successful after the fact. So whether it was child abuse, physical abuse, lack of food, no mother in the home, no father in the home, there's no situation you can tell me about besides death that I can't go find someone that's been through that same situation and they're still out there doing what they're supposed to do. Those are crutches. Because when you become of age, let me back that up, even a baby will make his or her own decision. And if you're a parent, you know that. You don't have any control over that. When that baby hungry, that baby gonna cry till you give him a bottle. I don't care what you do. When you give them the bottle, they'll zip up. So when they 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on up the ladder, they still have to make their own decisions. And you remind them that they have a decision. And that's why I said earlier, you have 2 choices when Johnny act up. You can decide to highlight the negative, or you can decide to highlight the positive. That's your decision. Any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I do want to thank you guys for your time. I look forward to everybody, us here in Lee County, moving the district to the next level. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. He gave me something to think about, and I guess we all sit here and realize that sometimes we have to look at that bucket and look at that glass halfway full, and how you feel about whether you wanted to stay halfway full or whether you wanted to be full. And to me, I wanted to be full. So being here, parents, today, you can look at that glass or that bucket and say, I think I'm halfway full, and I know there's a step more that I need to take to make sure it's full. And like I say, being here, parents, you can go out and speak with other parents to let them know what's happening here in Lee County School in the district and why we have these parent camps for you parents. So if you can spread the word, we would appreciate that to the utmost. At this time, we're going to take a break.